Welcome to Disconnecting from the Matrix, where the release is from within. Hello, Sovereign Creators. I'm your host, Alice Kim. Welcome to episode 20, called From Self-Consciousness with a little s to Self-Consciousness with a big S. In the last episode, I talked about the most important thing you must acknowledge and know about yourself, which is that you are God. Today, I continue the discussion by talking about the purpose of the Matrix and how it was designed to support our self-realization until we got a little lost along the way and ended up changing the rules of the game. Then I'll introduce how we can start to reset our focus from self with a little s to self with a big S in order to begin creating a new reality that supports our natural state of freedom and joy. Coming up. In the last episode, I talked about reestablishing your reference point of what you are. From who you think you are as a person to the fact that you are God. We're embodied here on earth for one purpose, and the entire reason for this virtual reality of the Matrix is for our own education, training, and expansion. It's a dimension we created for our ultimate good. It was created to serve us with the specific function of helping each of us arrive at our conscious knowing of ourselves as God, as the I am of our self. In that way, no matter how shitty it appears to be on any given day all around the world and in your own life, the Matrix is not hell on earth. Just the opposite. It was created as contrast so that we will finally one day say no more to our misperceptions that resulted in the miscreations to begin with. None of this is happening to us. It's not a test from some sadistic God that forces us to prove our worth by enduring the pain, the suffering, the disappointments, and dissatisfactions that seem to dominate most of our lives. And then maybe, just maybe, if we've proven to be good little boys and girls, we get to be rewarded in some afterlife, which doesn't even sound all that palatable to me. But that's only after we get to die first. And if you've been naughty, you're totally fucked for eternity. This world is not some objective training camp set up by some dude upstairs with a sick agenda to fuck with us and delight in watching us squirm our lives away in dejection. Hardly so. We, as God, wanted to know ourselves and all the infinite ways in which to experience our grandness. Each of us, a unique facet in the allness of the Godhead, a unique spark that helps blaze the blinding brilliance of the I Am. Without your contribution, without your I Amness, the I Am of all would be just a little less brilliant. Each of us are the facets of the grand hologram of God, the all that is. And if you know anything about holograms, each part not only retains its own quality, but also contains the property of the entire whole. In that way, you are God of all, and you are God of you in your own right. You have it all. That's the way it was always intended. So the Matrix is a playground we set up to have fun in, to experiment, to act and play out everything that we can conceive of while consciously knowing ourselves as creators. But we made a habit of getting distracted by all the shiny things that we created for our glory and our joy, and we lost focus of why we're here and what all of this was for. Instead of appreciating our creator abilities, we began to objectify and glorify our shiny creations instead. And that's when the separation became wider and wider between what we are, the cause, and what we created, the effects. And that's how the matrix turned dualistic and became a binary program. Time and space became real, inner and outer became real, and you and I became friend or foe. The physical body became our identity, and anything beyond the boundaries of this body was considered other. And instead of expanding by creating for the joy of it, we began to acquire, to take, to hoard, to compete, to defend for our slice of the pie. And that's when the game changed. That's when the fun ended. We flipped the rules around so that our creations, the effects, no longer were there purely for our enjoyment at our calling, but they themselves became the cause that affected our well-being, our happiness, our self-worth, our freedom. Now, instead of our creations serving us, we became their servants, working so hard to earn all the things that are yours to begin with and free. And because of our misperceptions, we begat more miscreations, which then began a vicious cycle, an infinite loop in program terms, where we completely spiraled out into the illusion without knowing how to get out. And worse off, not even knowing that there is such an option as out. Houston, we have a problem. We have done lost our minds. We mistook our self with a capital S, your I am. We mistook our true self for our little human self. So we've been kind of lost for a long time. But remember, none of this is happening to us. Rather, it is happening for us. We created the matrix for a specific purpose. And because we designed it, we already anticipated certain functionalities to surface when the time was needed. The recent shift in consciousness that began several years ago opened an opportunity not only for an upgrade in the program, but it called for something altogether new, a program overhaul for a new era. We are now running on a new OS, a new operating system that's cleaner, faster, and more efficient than ever. And as with new programs, the game also got revised to reflect the new consciousness. The new release, the big announcement of this new OS is this. Home comes to you. In other words, we're not going back home, back to source, paradise, the Garden of Eden, so to speak. We're not merging back to the sea of oneness. The entire point of coming here was for us to come to full consciousness of ourselves as part and all of one, yes, but also as the individual spark in the hologram, as ourselves. We came here to know and be ourselves as we are in our own way and become more of the all that is, all at once. So the more you become of your true self, the more you add to the all self. There is no sacrifice asked of anyone. The more you gain of yourself, the more we all gain together. That is the way of godness or goodness. So you don't get to go home anymore. Why would you? After you've tasted freedom, why would you want to move back home and live in your parents' basement after you've seen the world and completely came to your own? When you've become self-made, why would a sovereign want to go back and live with mommy and daddy? You can say that when you volunteered to come to this dimension on behalf of all that is, it was understood that you accepted a one-way ticket. You said, I will go and be more of which I am, and with every expansion will there be more for everyone at home, for our family. And home now gets to come to you. You've expanded the allness, and now you can invite home to join you so you can take them on a tour of your new and exciting experiences. And this is why the new age gives me the skeeves. It's old consciousness. It wants to go back home and be with one. Well, sorry to say, but that door is shut. Unless, of course, you want to hold back the upgrade and stay with the legacy OS. It's still available indefinitely until it phases out for good. Just know that it's an outdated model with no more support and that you're on your own. But if you still want to hold on to old consciousness, it'll still be around for some time. And the choice, as always, is up to you. My dear God friends, let's reclaim ourselves. Let's restore ourselves from the image we made of ourselves as a body, a face, a personality. Let's begin our transfiguration back to what we always were, free, sovereign, limitless. Our timing for realizing this potential of transforming from self with the little s to self with the big S in this lifetime, here on this planet, is more than promising. There is a reason why some of us chose to embody here at such an unprecedented and opportune time. It can be done, if that's what you choose. And that's the point of being here on Earth now, with this new shift. We're not here to escape from it, to rest in peace after we die, or to shed the world and our bodies like some tattered, worn-out garment in exchange for a new celestial wardrobe in the afterlife. That's what old consciousness, the old religions, told you. But in the new consciousness, in the new energy, we are here to integrate our self, the I am, with the human. We are here to complete our Christhood, to meld the divine and human, to have our being here on earth as embodied divinity, as walking, talking man-gods. We are now here to bring home to us, to bring heaven on earth. This is what is referred to as the new earth. Self, I am, is always becoming. You are never complete. You are never finished. You are always becoming more of you. But the question is, what more of you would you like to start knowing and experiencing? What kind of new reality do you want to taste? Because given full creatorship with free will, you must choose what you want every single time. So let's start from the end, which is also the beginning. We'll work backwards from the point of completion, so to speak. We'll start from the place of total liberation, then follow along to see how we did it, how we got here. So the first step, as discussed in the last episode, is to acknowledge yourself as God and claiming your sovereignty, your I am. The rest is the story of how you became it, through the work and practice of turning from self-consciousness with the little s to self-consciousness with the big S until the merging is complete, when there is no separation in your identity and relationship between small self, the human self, and the big self, the God self. And this is where I am in my practice. And that's what I'll be sharing with you in episodes to come. You are not what you think you are. Nothing that you think you are is real. There is no you as you understand it in human terms. But the one you are not is the one that's currently running the show that you think is so real. So let's come correct from the beginning and get real, shall we? Because the only way to true freedom is to stop being an imposter, a fraud, and being yourself. Little self is what you think you are. They are your ideas of a personality that you created within the matrix in order to survive, to prove your worth, to justify your existence, perhaps to have an advantage. The big self simply is. The big self has nothing to prove because its very existence is its own validation. It only looks within itself for proof of itself as it is, because that is the only validation that is required. The very validation that we have denied ourselves up to now. And when you reestablish yourself as the source, the cause, reality then switches back to its subordinate role. It goes back to realign itself with your creative desires. And life, once again, goes back to work for you. Remember, as within, so without. Let's begin turning away from our fixation on the outer. The world of form, phenomena, bodies, and other people's opinions and views of the world that have been indoctrinated as our own. Let's start to release all the crap that never belonged to us and therefore never served us, and begin to clean up our inner space so that we can create room for all that is ours. Home, heaven, freedom, joy, all of that. To come back to us, to flow back to us, to rush back to us. Let's start now to anchor ourselves from within, to place our trust back to the most limitless, unconditionally trustworthy and loving source, which is yourself, dear God, your I am. Let's initiate our transformation from a purely self-conscious being with a little s to a fully self-conscious being with a big S. Let's start today, in this lifetime. All that's required of you is to make the choice. Because when you, God, says so, it must be. Remember that you always have a choice, and what you choose to focus on will determine your world. Whatever happens in your life, whatever you experience, is a direct result of the choices that you have made, without exception. So where is your attention? Is it within or is it without? Are you an innie or are you an outie? Well, if you're like me, you're probably currently an innie-outie, somewhere in the middle. An interesting place to be, I'm your host, Alice Kim. Thanks for listening. This episode can be found at disconnectmatrix.com/podcast/20. Again, that's disconnectmatrix.com/podcast/20. As always, your comments and feedback are greatly appreciated. Email me at alice@disconnectmatrix.com. Again, that's alice@disconnectmatrix.com. I look forward to hearing from you.